I still remember the exact weight of her when they placed her in my arms. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Warm, wrinkled, mine. I was 22. A senior in college with a part-time job at a diner that smelled like burnt coffee and regret. My sister Diane was 30, married to a man who billed by the hour and looked at me like I was a math problem he didn't want to solve. She couldn't have children. I didn't know then that some people treat that emptiness like a wound, and others like a business opportunity. "Let me help you," she said. That was the first sentence in the story she wrote for me. "Just until you finish school. You're so young, Maya, you have your whole life ahead of you." I signed the papers on her kitchen table. Temporary guardianship, they called it. Diane called it being practical. I called it the last good decision I made for 12 years. My daughter's name was Lily. Lily Reyes. For 3 years, I visited every weekend. I read her goodnight moon until I could recite it in my sleep. I taught her to say mama, and she said it while looking at me, not Diane, and that should have been my first warning. Diane didn't like being second. The visits started getting shorter. Diane had scheduling conflicts. Then she moved to a different state for her husband's career. Then the phone calls stopped going through. Then the letters came back unopened. Then I hired a lawyer I couldn't afford, and Diane's husband hired 3. I was 25, working double shifts, and I learned that in America, love is a luxury and custody is a commodity. They told the court I was unstable. Diane produced a psychiatrist who testified I'd threatened to harm myself. I never met that man. They told the court I was an addict. My drug test came back clean, but by then the judge had already stopped looking at me. They told Lily I didn't want her, that I chose my life over her, that I was dead, or worse, indifferent. I wasn't dead. I was a ghost in my own life. I became a nurse because I needed to be useful to someone. Night shifts at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, 16 hours of holding strangers' hands while they crossed thresholds I couldn't cross myself. I learned to read monitors, to translate beeping into meaning, to spot a lie in a patient's vitals before they spoke it. I became very good at noticing things. It was the only way I survived. Every year on Lily's birthday, I bought a cake I didn't eat. Every year on Christmas, I wrote a letter I couldn't send. I kept a file on my computer labeled else screenshots of Diane's social media, public records, anything that proved Lily existed and I had once been her mother. I told myself it was for the day I'd have enough money to fight again. I knew even then that I was building something else, a map back to her or a weapon. I wasn't sure which. 12 years, 4,383 days. I aged a decade in the first 2 years, then stopped aging entirely. Became a woman who smiled at patients' families and went home to an apartment so quiet it felt like drowning. Then, on a Tuesday in March, the ER doors opened and Diane walked in with a girl who had my mother's cheekbones and my father's stubborn chin. Lily was 15. She was holding her stomach like it might fall out. Diane was on her phone, already negotiating, already managing. "She just has cramps," Diane told the triage nurse. "Can we hurry this up? We have a dinner." I was standing behind the nurse's station. I had a chart in my hands. I don't remember dropping it. Diane didn't see me. She never looked at staff. We were furniture to her, always had been. But Lily looked up. Her eyes, my eyes, scanned the room and found me like a compass finding north. She didn't know me. I saw that immediately, but something in her body recognized something in mine. She looked away first. I stepped back into the supply closet and breathed into a paper bag until I could stand without shaking. Then I pulled up her chart. 15 years old. Abdominal pain. Vitals, elevated heart rate, low blood pressure. The notes from the ambulance crew said she'd been found in the bathroom at home, bleeding. Diane had called a private car, not an ambulance at first, had waited 40 minutes. The paramedic had written, "Mother seemed more concerned about staining the carpet than patient's distress." I read that line 3 times. Then I walked into Lily's exam room. Diane was still on the phone. "Yes, Richard, I know the PR team, can you just handle it? I'll call Dr. Halloway in the morning. We'll get this sorted." She didn't look up when I entered. Lily was on the bed in a hospital gown, knees drawn to her chest. She looked smaller than 15. She looked like the 3-year-old I'd last held, stretched into a stranger's body. There was a bruise on her wrist, fingerprint-shaped. "Hi, Lily," I said. "I'm Maya. I'm going to be your nurse tonight." She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "It hurts. I know. We're going to figure out why." I took her hand to check her pulse, and my thumb found the scar on her palm, a thin white line from when she'd grabbed a broken cup at 2 years old. I'd been there. I'd held pressure on it until the bleeding stopped. Diane had been annoyed about the carpet then, too. The pulse oximeter beeped. Diane finally looked up. She didn't recognize me at first. 12 years of night shifts had carved years into my face. Then her eyes narrowed, and I saw the moment she knew. The blood left her lips. She stood so fast her chair tipped. "What are you doing here?" "My job." I didn't let go of Lily's hand. "Your daughter is in pain. I'm assessing her." "She's not." Diane caught herself. "I want another nurse." "This is a public hospital, Mrs. Hartwell. We don't take requests." I turned to Lily, keeping my voice soft. "Can you tell me when the pain started?" Lily looked between us, confused. "This morning. Mom gave me something for it, but it got worse." "What did she give you?" "Just some pills from her bathroom." Diane stepped forward. "That's enough. I want to speak to your supervisor." Now, I looked at her then, really looked at her. The woman who'd stolen my child, who'd told her I was dead, who'd brought her here bleeding and worried about carpet stains. I felt nothing, not anger, not grief. The nothing was worse. It was the nothing of a nurse who'd seen too much, or a mother who'd finally stopped hoping. "My supervisor is Dr. Okonkwo," I said. "She's performing an emergency C-section. I'll be happy to page her when she's done. In the meantime, your daughter needs an ultrasound and a rape kit." I said the last two words to Lily, not Diane, because the bleeding and the bruising suggest possible trauma, and in Pennsylvania, any minor presenting with these symptoms triggers a mandatory report. "Isn't that right, Mrs. Hartwell?" Diane went pale. "You can't." "This is Richard will what?" I asked. "Bill me." Lily's hand tightened in mine. "What's happening?" I turned to her, and for the first time in 12 years I spoke to my daughter without pretending to be someone else. "Lily, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I'm going to step out and get the doctor. While I'm gone, no one is going to make you do anything you don't want to do. Not your mother, not anyone. Do you understand?" She nodded, eyes wide. I walked out. I didn't look back at Diane. I went to the locker room, opened my phone, and opened the file I'd been building for 12 years. Then I printed everything. The ultrasound confirmed what the blood test suggested. Lily was 8 weeks pregnant. The ER doctor, a tired woman named Patel who'd seen too many girls like this, pulled me aside. She says she doesn't know how it happened, that she woke up like this. Dr. Patel's voice was careful, the bruising on her wrists, the vaginal tearing, the mother's insistence on a private doctor. "Maya, I have to ask, do you know this family?" "I used to," I said. "Her mother is my sister." Dr. Patel's eyes widened. "Maya, I need 30 minutes with the patient. Alone, you can't. I'm not going to treat her. I'm going to tell her the truth, and then I'm going to give her a choice her mother never gave either of us." Dr. Patel looked at me for a long time, then she nodded. 30 minutes. "I'll keep the mother in the waiting room. But Maya, if you cross a line, I have to report it." "I know." I handed her a folder. "If I cross a line, give this to social services. It's 12 years of evidence that Diane Hartwell kidnapped my daughter through legal manipulation, falsified psychiatric reports, and perjured herself in family court." Dr. Patel took the folder like it might burn her. "Is this real?" "It's documented. Every screenshot, every public record, every letter she returned to me unopened." I met her eyes. "I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to be the mother I should have been 12 years ago. Please." She gave me 25 minutes. I didn't knock. I walked into Lily's room and closed the door. Diane was shouting in the hallway, her voice muffled by the wood. Lily was sitting up, staring at the ultrasound photo in her hands. "Is it true?" she asked without looking up. "Am I pregnant?" "Yes. Mom said I was just sick. She said she'd take care of it. That there was a doctor who could make it go away." Lily's voice was flat, rehearsed. "She said I couldn't tell Dad, that he'd be so disappointed." I sat on the edge of the bed, close enough to touch her, far enough that she could pull away. "Lily, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear all of it before you decide what to believe." "Can you do that?" She looked at me then. Really looked. "Who are you?" "My name is Maya Reyes. I'm your biological mother. I gave birth to you when I was 22. I held you for 3 years. And then your aunt, the woman you call Mom, took you from me using lawyers and lies, and I haven't been allowed to see you since." Lily laughed. It was a terrible sound, broken and young. "That's not," she said. "You were dead. She said you didn't want me, that you were on drugs." "I've never been on drugs. I work here at this hospital 5 nights a week. I've worked here for 8 years. I pulled out my phone. I showed her my employee ID, my apartment lease, my tax returns, the photos of her as a baby that Diane had never seen, me holding her in the hospital, both of us exhausted and perfect. Then I showed her the file. The psychiatrist's report with his name and the date, a man I'd never met, testifying I was suicidal. The custody order, with Diane's signature on the guardian ad litem's recommendation, a recommendation purchased, I later learned, for the price of a luxury car. The emails Diane had sent to our parents, telling them I was unfit and grateful for the help. The photos of Lily's first day of kindergarten, posted on Diane's Facebook, while my letters to that school were returned marked no student by that name enrolled. Lily read each page. Her hands shook. Why are you showing me this? Because your mother, Diane, is in the waiting room right now, calling people to fix your pregnancy. Because she brought you here bleeding and tried to stop us from examining you. Because 12 years ago, she decided what was best for me without asking, and tonight she's trying to do the same to you. I took her hand. The scar was still there. I'm not going to make your choices, Lily. Not about this pregnancy. Not about anything. But I need you to know that you have choices. That you always had a mother who wanted you. That the story she told you was a lie. And the truth is messier and harder and more yours than anything she ever gave you. Lily was crying now. Silent, furious tears. She said you were dead. I know, she said no one wanted me. I know, she said. Lily stopped. She looked at the ultrasound photo, then at me. What do I do? Whatever you want. There's a social worker coming. You can talk to her alone. You can report what's happened to you or not. You can keep the baby or not. You can see me again or not. I stood up. But Lily, whatever you choose, I'm not going anywhere this time. Not because a court ordered it, because I'm your mother and I should have fought harder 12 years ago. I'm fighting now. She didn't hug me. That would come later and it would be awkward and we would both cry. But she held out the ultrasound photo. Will you stay while I talk to the social worker? Yes, and if I don't want to go home with her, then you won't. Where would I go? I thought of my apartment. The second bedroom I'd never been able to rent out because I couldn't bear a stranger sleeping where Lily should have been. With me. For as long as you want. Or somewhere else if that's what you need. Your choice, Lily. Always your choice. Diane tried to stop it. She called her husband, who called a judge, who called the hospital administrator at home. But Dr. Patel had already filed the mandatory report. The social worker, a fierce woman named Gloria who'd worked in foster care for 30 years, took one look at Lily's bruises and Diane's designer handbag and made a call that couldn't be unmade. Lily was placed in emergency protective custody. Not with me, the system is slow, and I was still a stranger on paper. But Gloria found her a foster home 2 blocks from my apartment, and I visited every day. I brought homework help and terrible movies and the patience of a woman who'd waited 12 years and could wait 12 more if she had to. Diane was investigated. Not by me. I didn't call the police, didn't file a report. I didn't need to. Lily did. She told Gloria about the pills, about the doctor Diane had mentioned, about the nights her father, Richard, who'd never adopted her, who'd looked through her like glass, came into her room. She was vague about the details, and I didn't push. I knew enough about trauma to know that the story comes when the survivor is ready, not when the audience is curious. The story broke 6 weeks later, not because of me, because Lily at 15 asked Gloria if she could post a video. She wanted to tell her story, she said, not for revenge, because she'd spent her whole life being told who she was, and she wanted to try telling it herself. I watched her film it in Gloria's living room. She wore a sweatshirt I'd bought her, yellow with a rabbit on it, too childish for a 15-year-old and exactly right for the girl I was still learning. She didn't look at the camera at first. She looked at her hands. My name is Lily Hartwell, or it was. I'm not sure what my name is anymore. I grew up being told my mother was dead. She isn't. I grew up being told I was chosen, special, wanted. I wasn't, I was taken. And I grew up being told that my body wasn't mine, that my choices weren't mine, that my story belonged to the people who paid for it. She looked up then. This is mine now. I'm pregnant. I don't know if I'm keeping it. I don't know if I'm staying with my biological mother who I just met or if I'm going to run as far from all of this as I can. But I know that for the first time those are my questions to answer. Not my aunt's. Not a lawyer's. Mine. The video got 3 million views in 48 hours. Diane's name was in the comments, then the news. Richard Hartwell's firm issued a statement distancing themselves. Then another, announcing his leave of absence. Then a divorce filing, citing irreconcilable differences and a request for full disclosure of assets. Richard, it turned out, had his own secrets, and Diane's fall gave his enemies leverage to pull them into the light. Diane lost her country club membership, her book club, her volunteer position at the museum. She didn't go to prison. The statute of limitations on parental kidnapping through legal channels is a maze, and her lawyers were still good. But she lost the thing she'd cared about most, the image of the perfect mother. The world saw her as she was. It wasn't justice, but it was a kind of gravity. What goes up on manufactured virtue eventually falls on exposed truth. Lily decided to give the baby up for adoption, not because I suggested it, I didn't, Not because Diane demanded it, Diane had no power anymore. Because Lily, at 15, with a therapist and a social worker and a mother she'd just met, decided she wasn't ready to be a parent. She chose the adoptive parents herself, a lesbian couple in their 30s, one a teacher, one a firefighter, who'd been waiting 5 years for a child. Gloria knew them from her foster work. Lily met them 3 times before she decided. She asked me to come to the last meeting. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" she asked in the car. I thought of all the things I could say, that I wished I'd had choices at her age, that I wished I'd had someone to ask, that I was terrified of saying the wrong thing and losing her again. I think I said carefully that the right thing is the thing you choose, not the thing chosen for you, and I think you're the only one who knows what that is. She was quiet for a mile. Then, "Maya, yes. Can I call you Mom, or is that weird?" I had to pull over. I cried in a Wawa parking lot while Lily pretended not to notice, and when I could breathe again, I said, "You can call me whatever feels true. I'm not going anywhere." She calls me Maya. Mostly. Sometimes, when she's half asleep or scared, she calls me Mom. Both are true. Both are gifts I don't deserve and won't waste. I didn't open a center, not at first. I kept working nights, kept visiting Lily, kept showing up. She moved in with me at 16 after the foster case closed. We fought about curfews and college applications and whether cereal was an acceptable dinner. We were normal in the most exhausting, beautiful way. At 18, Lily started volunteering at a shelter for pregnant teens. She told her story in group sessions, not for performance but for presence. "I had someone who finally asked me what I wanted," she'd say. "Not everyone gets that. I want to be that person for someone else." I watched her grow into a woman I didn't raise but somehow recognized. At 20, she suggested we start something. Not a nonprofit, not yet. A room. A place where mothers who'd lost children to family manipulation could sit with daughters who'd been stolen and both could be heard. No lawyers. No therapists unless they wanted them. Just chairs and tea and the radical act of being believed. We called it Lily's Choice, not because she chose to give up her baby, though she did, but because she chose to stay, to rebuild, to be more than what was done to her. It's been 3 years now. We have 3 rooms, 20 chairs, and a waiting list. Diane lives in Florida, last I heard, in a condo she bought with the last of Richard's settlement. She sends letters sometimes. I don't read them, not because I hate her, I don't anymore. Hate requires energy I need for other things. I don't read them because Lily's Choice isn't about Diane. It's about the women who sit in our chairs and realize, some for the first time, that their story belongs to them. Lily is 23 now. She finished college last spring. She wants to be a social worker, maybe a lawyer. She still calls me Maya, mostly. She still wakes up crying sometimes, and I still sit with her until she falls back asleep. We don't talk about the baby she gave up, not directly. But every year on his birthday, a boy, the adoptive mothers send photos, we bake a cake we don't eat. It's not grief exactly. It's acknowledgement, it's choice. I'm 34, I'm still a night nurse. I still work too much and sleep too little and keep a file on my computer, though now it's labeled LC instead of L. I still notice things. I still translate beeping into meaning. But I've learned that the most important vital sign isn't on any monitor. It's the moment someone realizes they can say no, that they can say yes, that the story they've been told about themselves was written by someone else, and they have the right, the absolute, terrifying, beautiful right, to pick up the pen and start again. I'm Maya. I'm 34. I'm a mother who lost 12 years and found something harder and better than the fairy tale I imagined. I'm a sister who learned that family isn't biology or obligation. It's who stays when you give them the choice to leave. And if you're listening to this, if you're in a room that feels like a cage and someone is telling you they know what's best for you, hear me. They don't. Only you know. And the moment you believe that, even a little, even terrified, you've already started opening the door. See you in the next story.